Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cybersecurity Deep Dive. I'm Aaron, your host, and today we have a special guest joining us, James Lim, the Group CEO of Performance Data Asia. James, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be here again with you guys.
In our last session, we covered the fundamentals of cybersecurity. Today, we're going to dive deeper into advanced strategies for protecting against cyber threats. James, could you start by giving us an overview of the current cyber threat landscape?
Certainly, Aaron, the current landscape is evolving every other day, and it's driven, the driving factors are due to many companies going into digital transformation. So, more and more companies are using cloud services for their applications, storing their data in the cloud in shared storages, as in data storages. And more businesses are relying on online shopping platforms as well. So collecting of client data, credit card payment information, and financial institutions are also offering new online financial service offerings as well. And this and many other things contributing to today's landscape that's ever evolving. So with that in place, because of the what is the word? The word I want to say is that it's inevitable for a lot of companies to move forward to remain relevant and competitive against business competitions. They have to go through this phase of their business reinvention. So new threats are being formed as well as we get everything more of our businesses online. So it is very sophisticated, as you mentioned, rightly pointed out earlier, because of all these interconnections, data exchanges going through the internet. The target is moving every day. Okay, so more and more opportunities for bad actors to come in and do their work and steal data, steal your sensitive information, maybe even use your credit card information to steal money, right? So and also users are getting sophisticated as well, because more and more companies staff are working outdoor. After COVID-19, a lot of companies realize that it could be productive for them to have their people work outside the office compound as well, and some companies even want to reduce their cost on rentals, for example, right? And they reduce the size of their office, and people are working from outside as well. I've been to offices, multinational companies, where they have a huge place, but everybody's working from home after COVID. They're getting used to it. So with that, we have people working from outside, and not forgetting, I mentioned earlier, more and more solutions are worked off cloud services, which is through the internet. So with that, you need to also look into protecting people who are moving around, endpoints, essentially endpoints, for example, like your mobile phone, your iPad, your laptop, for example. The other thing that we are concerned about is also, of course, the inside attack. So there are two ways of saying to talk about that, which is one malicious, and one which is not intentional, because the lack of education for those people who are working remotely, or people who are receiving emails or information from outside. So the only way for people to go through this, to survive through this jungle today, the digital jungle, is to remain vigilant and proactive in the defense, in the security posture.
That's a sobering reminder of the challenges we face. So what are some advanced defense strategies that organizations can implement to protect themselves?
Unfortunately, 30 minutes of our podcast won't be enough to cover this topic, which is why it's called a deep dive. It is as deep as the sea. I mean, from my point of view, it's as deep as the sea. There's so many things to talk about. So maybe we talk about something more on the surface for now, or rather, what could be easily achieved by many companies out there, big or small. the first thing that we can start off, or they can start off with, is to segmentize their network. So in another word, some people call it VLAN, virtual LANs, where you keep your network smaller and manageable. So your departments could be compartmentalized within your network, within your LAN. So you can have an HR LAN, you can have a sales LAN, or a logistic LAN, for example. What this does is that it will actually minimize the impact of any attacks to a smaller scale, as well as when the network is smaller, it's easier to manage this network. Right, so that is one thing that companies could almost immediately work on. If we look into a lot of remediation, cyber attack remediation plan, one of them would be this, and it would hold the highest priority in the remediation plan usually, right? So if you have not been attacked yet, that might be a good thing to start off with. So the other thing that a company can set up would be the intrusion detection and prevention system, so IDPS, where company monitoring the network could immediately respond to any form of anomalies, right? So for example, if someone was monitoring the network and sees that something is being copied, or some activities that's going so fast outside normal activity circumstances, then they could then zero in on that. Maybe they could isolate that network. For example, if you have an IDPS and you spotted something in your sales department, but you already segmentize your network, so it will not be easily attacked. It will not easily go onto your HR network, which is very sensitive. You have your HR information. That will then protect you in the sense where you will minimize the damage, but you could straight away also minimize any further damage within that LAN by maybe terminating that connection, terminating that endpoint, the laptop, or whatever that's causing that traffic, that flood.
Okay, there's so many strategies I've heard so far. So as just a typical business owner, how am I supposed to know which one is suitable for me? Because there's so many, it might be overwhelming for a person who like just starting out to pay attention to their cybersecurity. Like, what am I supposed to know about all this?
Okay, I think the measurement of cost would be, well, one thing is what you can afford, the other thing is what you cannot not afford, right? Because in today's business context, to remain relevant, as I mentioned earlier on, and to be competitive with your competitors, you need to digitalize your business, you need to put things online, you need to use the speed of internet by means of email or any form of data sharing. There's no way that you can save money in that sense, but at minimum you should at least invest in endpoint protection, right? Endpoint protection will protect your endpoints outside. Also at minimum, you should invest in firewalls. When you invest in firewalls, the segmentization of your network will be just mainly services. I mean, it's not hardware. So the hardware cost could be higher, but the services is just one-time service, and the hardware and the service is one time, but it's just one-time pain for you to go through to make sure that you fortify your network, especially departments that holds very sensitive data, like your HR department, for example, right? And of course, if your sales department holds company secrets or customer secrets, then it's important that you also have a protection there through creating VLANs to minimize any kind of damages. These are the two most basic things that you basic solutions that you want to ensure that your company has.
Mm.
So if you have a small company, endpoint, fortify your network, secure your sensitive data folder where you keep it within the group itself. There's no other people outside the group have access to that.
Mm.
Yeah, so things like some people have virtual server created for a sensitive department, and that particular server is only accessible to one VLAN. So salespeople can't get in there, even if their system, through ignorance, their system is being hacked, their VLAN is compromised, they will not be able to compromise the HR department. So that is what we mean by segmentizing your network to limit the impact. The other thing that you want to invest, which actually something that we will discuss in our next discussion, because today's topic is quite big as it is of course you need to have backup so that you can isolate your current affected system, put it aside, isolate it offline for forensics, to have your vendor check for you, or use it as proof or forensics to go through the logs and study what happens and how you can mitigate future such similar future instances. Then your recovery, data recovery, whether you backed up your data, daily or a month ago, that also plays a part for businesses. At least you have to look into that. So when you have problems with through cyber attacks, isolate the problem, take away the tumor, and upload or recover the latest good data set, so that people can continue to working. So defense in the office, defense endpoint, and make sure that you have a proper recovery system, with data backup and recovery system. Yeah. These are the one more thing that you want to invest in is at least send your staff for proper training, cybersecurity awareness.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's usually the entry point.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, I did talk about segmentization, intrusion detection. We still have to cover SIEM, cloud access security broker, cloud security post management, and the zero trust network access.
Okay.
I did touch base a bit about EPP, endpoint protection. We need to talk about email security as well. In all this, because you mentioned for smaller companies, right, or at least lesser spending investment. So this is more for like company with very complicated, sophisticated network with many users in different locations and many software platforms all over the world, for example. So these are the following topics that we will talk about for those.
Okay, so after I implemented all those and now the company is running well, now they want to increase their budget to go to the next level of cybersecurity protection. So for this kind of people, what are the options for them?
Okay, so for bigger companies or people with bigger budget, what would be more important, what would be very important would be if they are using, or if you're using cloud services, essentially it comes with cloud access security brokers. I think it's something that you can tie up with your cloud service provider, and then work with the CSPM, cloud service cloud security posture management. These systems can be connected to a system called the System Information Event Management, SIEM or SIEM. So SIEM are usually used by larger corporations because they are first very sophisticated, complicated. You have to have good people to be able to configure and maintain the system, and also it's expensive, right? So what this thing does is that it actually for example, we mentioned about your segmentization of your network. We mentioned about intrusion detection and prevention system. We mentioned a bit about endpoint protection, right? So SIEM would be able to pull logs from these solutions. And what they do is that, or what you can do is that you can correlate those logs collected and create filters. If you look in, say for example, if you're collecting logs from firewall, right, and you have 500 people, you can imagine the number of entry, you know, whether people going into their VLAN, someone having access to the next VLAN, someone logging into something through the firewall, and the firewall does process something. It all gets captured in SIEM, right? So SIEM would essentially gather all this information, and what the people have to do is to train the system. Sometimes they have pre-canned logs correlation. They also might have partnership with some brands of firewall that already have certain canned solutions in there, but very often with different kinds of solutions mixed in together, you probably need to customize your reports or the data that you collect to present to the person who is overseeing or monitoring your systems. So SIEM will capture all this information, as I mentioned, those solutions, and it will put all them together, stage them, and then they need to correlate those information for you to be able to catch something with for tracing, for example, right? You'll be able to trace. So SIEM says that some unauthorized person has tried to come through the firewall, and then your machine with endpoint, something has happened to this machine. So all this correlationing will happen. So it's very technical, it's very in-depth. We probably want to get a specialist to discuss about this in our future podcast, right? SIEM is a huge solution, but it's a very important solution, and a lot of companies are already starting to use it. Mainly huge corporations are using it already. Today we are monitoring for about 40 companies in our security operations center, and we collect about 1 terabyte of logs per day.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's quite a lot.
yeah, that's quite a lot. So without the SIEM, without machine learning and AI, which is another topic, we would be very busy. Okay. Speaking of that, we are also we didn't cover email security. Email security is essentially what it does is that it monitors all the emails that's coming in and out, right? It's like a gatekeeper, allowing emails to come in, allowing emails to go out, and filtering out some of those suspicious emails or attachments. They usually come with connected to a database, learning newer threats, updated threats. That's how they filter out. That's email security for you. Email security also can be connected to your SIEM, right? So when SIEM says that Symantec or Trellix caught an email and quarantine it, right? And somebody, the staff, just accept it and open up that email, and something happens. So SIEM will then trace what's the next event, and then they will know that, okay, if they backtrace, they know this happened this time, and then this time email security quarantine something. So even if an endpoint person releases something that is quarantined, it gets recorded as well. So that's SIEM for you. Everything gets recorded so that you can backtrack. Another thing that can be connected to the SIEM would be the zero trust network access. So zero trust network access, basically what it does is that It's no entry for everybody. Once you get in there, you have no access to anything unless you are a qualified person. So for example, if someone wants to go into HR department, he has access, say, password, and then his 2FA, right? And then he's a salesperson, he tries to go into the HR department. That's not allowed, right?
Yeah.
And then if he tries to access something that he's not supposed to access, it's not allowed. And whatever he does that's not allowed is recorded as well in the SIEM.
Mm.
So that becomes a behavioral situation where maybe a security operations center guy can say remove or block endpoint.
Mm.
So that's why it's so important to have someone monitoring. That is a different topic altogether again. It's a huge topic, that one. We call it the monitor, detection and response, MDR. Right? Then so we covered ZTNA, Zero Trust. We covered endpoint protection, email security. We talk about cloud access security brokers. These are the usual or common solutions that multinationals will engage. For the MDR portion, it is a very key portion because of all the investments that huge corporation has made in the millions. For example, those data that's being collected, all those anomalies, the activities that's going on, has to be monitored to fully leverage on the technology, right? So when you spot something wrong on when you monitor your system and you spot something wrong, you have the capability to detect exactly what and where and what, okay? And then you are able to, in the shortest turnaround time, respond. So monitor is important, but when you see it, you need to detect what is it and where, how, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to respond. Doing what to respond? So MDR is a very key component of cybersecurity. Whatever solutions you have, it's proactive, yes, but in actual fact, for cybersecurity, proactive means you need to monitor, you need to be able to detect and respond.
Zero trust basically means everything is locked down, right? So
Yeah.
that not everyone can access everything in the system.
Yeah.
But does that affect the productivity in the company where everyone needs to get approval just to ask something? Won't that hinder the day-to-day actions of the company to the extent that there's so much productivity loss it doesn't make sense to implement this tool?
Well, zero trust, it will not take a lot of time from the users. It will take a lot of time to configure it more than the users.
This is like one of the concerns that people have about zero trust, right?
No, it will not affect the user actually. It depends on the location of the user. Yeah, the configuration part is very complex. So for example, my laptop, right? From a real life perspective, right? There are a lot of doors, for example. So say in our office, right? The main entrance, coming into from the main entrance, you need to have your iris scan, right? And say, okay, so it's Aaron, right? Aaron, you're allowed to come in through the main door, right? So you get to and go to your table, right? You go to table. So when you go to your office room door or your department room door, you scan your iris again. It's you, right? And if you want to make it even more complex, you have to scan your iris and then you have to put your phone there, NFC, to be able to get in, right? So you get into your department, right? So that is not a lot of thing, right? You just scan your iris, welcome, main door, go to your department, scan your iris, put your NFC, welcome, and your table is there, right?
Okay.
So now, let's say that you go to HR department, right? They recognize you, but you're not HR department. What are you trying to do? So you go to HR door by mistake, for example, you beep, and right, beep, 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 3 times. What happens? MDR gets notification that Aaron Kwan is trying to go into the HR department. Aaron Kwan okay, sorry, I just disturbed you. Just for fun. Aaron Kwan from logistics is trying to go to no. Aaron Kwan, our cleaner, is trying to go to the HR department. So they will not allow that, and then they will also detect. And then they will. What happen is that they will actually kill off your account. Right now, you get into your office, for example, nothing goes wrong. You sit down on your table, so you're no longer a cleaner. No, for logistics, you're sales. So you put your laptop on, and then of course you have your endpoint security, right, which you will need your MFA or whatever to log in, because you have your cloud access security. For example, you need to go into your data, or you want to go to your data, your file host, for example. Maybe your company already implemented security. So the first time you go in, you have to log in, and then you have to do a 2FA on your laptop. Even that, one time. Whatever you do, you have access to whatever you can have access, which is pre-configured. Right. So if you are trying to go to another site, although you are trusted staff, that gets blocked straight away. There's zero trust, even though you are known in the company. Like in the past, if you are administrator, you're able to go to a lot of places unknowingly. Right, that happens. Right?
Okay.
So zero trust means that it's more layers to configure. So if they say that Aaron has access, so now your logistics, right? Your laptop has access to certain things. Then your logistics, you have to go into this warehouse, or maybe a shared desktop, where only through the desktop you can enter into the your warehouse data. It doesn't affect you. It's more for the cybersecurity team to configure it correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that shows how important your cybersecurity team must be, because if they configure it wrongly, it might affect the productivity of the company.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There's a lot of ways to also detect. I mean, this is a more in-depth discussion where even if the cybersecurity allow you to go to a certain site, then there's another layer of protection as well, like data encryption. So in order to decrypt the data, you have to have these rights to do it as well. So even you can go in some places with data protection, you might not be able to see the information that you can accidentally have access to. So there are a lot of ways of working around that. So even if you go through zero trust and by mistake, and then you try to access to a certain data that is encrypted and you can't decrypt it, that also gets recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they'll say, hey, what are you trying to do? You say, I didn't do anything. Oh, then it's a mistake.
My cat walked over my laptop.
Yeah, that's why this is it's alive. It's alive. You can't. There's so many people involved, which is why the managed service team is very important. The managed service team will actually identify all these problems, and then they come up with new policies. Like, hey, this is wrong. So they change the policy. So it keeps on changing. Yeah, there's no one size fit all. We would like to invite specialists for those various technologies that we spoke about, to be able to deliver a much more technically engaging conversation. Maybe we can also open up to our viewers out there after hearing today's podcast. If there's anything that we mentioned about or didn't mention about you want us to cover, we can always cover that in our future cybersecurity deep dive edition of podcast. We could also go deeper into discussion with specialists, with brands, with vendors if you want. For example, you talk about zero trust. If you want to ask to speak with somebody and ask somebody to get onto our podcast to share some of their insights and some of their technology information with you guys, we can always do that. So I suggest that you guys out there, if you have anything in mind, just pen it down and write into us. Right, you can see our email address at the bottom of the video. Today we talk about the evolving landscape. We covered about that, and that's inevitable. A lot of companies have to do that unless you want to go back to Stone Age, where you do snail mail and obviously 10 times slower than your next neighbor competition, right? So it's something that you cannot avoid. Okay, it's just like what's his name, Thanos. Inevitable. Thanos, yeah, right. You can't help it, right? If you want to be in business, you want to remain relevant in today's business landscape. That's how it's gonna be. You might just want to see how much am I spending for this annually, how much am I spending per head count, just to see your budget, and then what is the spending against your revenue or your margins, so that you have to think about it yourself. If there are some things that you can do without digitalizing, then by all means, right, you could save some money there, but I think you can hardly save a lot enough to avoid using the online technology today. We talk about the inevitable creating more sophisticated attacks by bad actors. And we talk about, you mentioned how can one protect themselves without spending too much money. So to begin with is to segmentize your network for smaller impact attacks. Look into firewall with intrusion detection. Then for bigger companies, you can look into SIEM, system information event management, SIEM. Then we talk about CASB, where if you use cloud services, cloud platform, they have cloud access security brokers, and then cloud security posture management, which can work cohesively with your SIEM to make your team more effective. Then you talk about zero trust network access, ZTNA. We spoke about endpoint protection like Symantec, CrowdStrike, Trellix, and some other brands as well. Okay, we spoke about monitor, detection, and response, MDR, how important it is. With all the spending that you put into your cybersecurity, your security posture, you want to fully leverage and protect yourself with MDR. And we did mention that this is a huge topic, so we still have development security operations. You mentioned earlier about security for software, right? Application security. We also talk about monitoring your backup, because that's very important. I mentioned earlier that if you want to be able to protect yourself from your business from such attacks, to be able to recover as quickly as possible, so that your loss of opportunities is being kept small, would be that you have a proper backup solution for all your data. Okay, and different even different VLANs. If you have different VLANs with different VM virtual machines where you store your data, you want them all to be properly backed up. Then you want to do recovery tests to make sure that recovery is good. Backup monitoring is also very important. I've known customers who has very good backup strategy, but nobody monitors if the backup was done correctly, and things get broken and they were unable to recover the data timely. Right? You spend more time trying to recover your backup. Right? The irony of that. I think there are a lot more topics, so I don't want to drag today's session too long and let people have all this fresh in their mind, in their heads.
If, let's say, a staff is leaving a company, at their time in the company, they were using their personal laptop to access company data. So let's say once they leave the company, how do we ensure that they don't bring along these sensitive information together with them?
Yeah, this happens. It's an important topic as well. I'll try to make it very simple because this is also a big topic itself. We call it the mobile device management (MDM), right? So of course the policy is very important. Basically, if you do allow your staff to use their own laptops, you want to make sure that data resides in the company, right? And you want to be able to secure the data by not allowing downloads. You can work it off the company folder. Then after that, you would also want to apply the ZTNA as well, so that it doesn't go wandering everywhere. So mobile device management, what it does is basically it will also be able to remove any company sensitive information or application or logins information that is recorded in their laptop. Yeah, so that's how company protect their data. Besides that, and of course they have this agreement where they will sign on an agreement that they will not take company data outside. So those are the things. And of course, if a company, if a personal laptop is connected to a company network, or we call it active domain, they can also create policies where certain things can be done on the machine, because if you're using your personal machine and you also do your personal things, right, the danger is that you download something for your personal use, then you might affect the company system as well. But of course that will be caught by the endpoint, and eventually MDR will catch and then lock the system down. But these days I think a lot of companies try to avoid that, but people still do that. But they have to take real precautionary measures if they want to allow bring your own device. If the person leaves, the MDM is capable of erasing certain things. Yeah.
So you totally revoke all access immediately?
All access will be removed. Data, if it's company centric data, it can be removed as well. Yeah, because it's managed by the mobile device management. Mobile device management has the full control of the computer.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
But then again, if the staff is willing, so MDM is something that it has to be agreed by both parties, the owner of the staff and then the company. But most companies these days will try to avoid that because of complication, like personal use of other application. Like in the company's laptop or endpoint, you could lock all internet sites except for what's allowed. So then that is how secure it can get. Yeah, because you have plugins, installation, active software where you download certain program, it download some plugins. Those are the things that can cause or can be malicious. But we do want to invite people to write in to us again, the email below. If you think of something that we spoke about, if you think I'm wrong, I'm human. Also, please let me know. And if you think there are topics that we should cover for your discernment or for your colleagues' discernment, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we will add more topics in our coming sessions. Right.
Thank you, James, for sharing your expertise with us today. It's been an enlightening discussion on advanced cybersecurity strategies.
My pleasure, Aaron. Thank you for having me here again, and I'm hoping to see you guys the next program.
And thank you to our viewers for tuning in. Remember, staying informed and implementing advanced cybersecurity strategies is key to protecting your organization against evolving threats. Join us next time for more insights on cybersecurity deep dive. This is Aaron and James signing off from Cybersecurity Insights. We are keeping your data safe, one byte at a time.